Welcome everyone, welcome to our panelists. Thank you all for being here. So this event is part of Newhouse's celebration and observation of National News Engagement Day. This panel is about how local news coverage decisions are made, and you're about to hear from some people who are experts on that, very familiar with it. So we hope that you will participate. There will be a time when we ask for audience questions, so please don't hesitate. We'll have a microphone that we'll be passing around, so please don't hesitate to ask questions. This event was organized by the Syracuse chapter, the Newhouse chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists, which is a student chapter. So I'm going to turn it over to our student chapter president, Ellen Myers, who will tell you briefly a little bit about the organization, and then we'll have the panelists introduce themselves and we'll get right underway. So Ellen Myers, please.
Hi everyone, my name is Ellen Myers. I'm the student president of the SPJ chapter here at Syracuse. Right now I just have the SPJ website pulled up, so I'll just tell you a little bit about SPJ. So the Society of Professional Journalists is an organization that's really focused on a lot of different aspects of journalism, both the actual reporting process, the ethics, and sort of the behind-the-scenes aspect of journalism, you know, like how do we cover the news, what is the best way to allocate resources to big stories and the smaller local stories. It also focuses a little bit about sort of journalism law, you know, with FOIA, freedom of the press, and sort of like all these other aspects of journalism. So we meet bi-weekly on Thursdays at 5:30 p.m. So I really encourage you to join SPJ. We host a bunch of other events similar to these panels and other things like with the Newhouse community like movie nights, other Q&As with like guest speakers. So if you're interested in joining, feel free to let me know, and I'd be happy to add you to our listserv. We're also on social media too. Feel free to tweet during the event too. We're using the Newhouse hashtag NHNED, so feel free to tweet photos or any quotes during the event, and you can also like us on Facebook. So I'll turn it over to our panelists. First, we'll have our panelists just go in a row and briefly introduce yourselves, what organization you represent, and your title and role in your news organization. So, start.
Hi, good morning everybody. My name is Ray Fulkerson. I'm the news director at CMY Central, which is the NBC, CBS, and CW affiliates here in Syracuse. And I am a proud Newhouse graduate, 1999, dating myself, but...
Hello, my name is Brett Samuels. I'm the managing editor of the Daily Orange on campus, and I'm a senior currently here in Newhouse.
My name is Josh Craddock. I'm the assignment desk supervisor at Time Warner Cable News and president of the local Syracuse Press Club. And sorry, I'm a college graduate.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sabrina Betts. I'm the managing producer at News Channel 9, which is the ABC affiliate here in Syracuse, and a 2004 graduate of Lemoyne College.
No booze for
I know, I was waiting for it.
I have a love mic. Does this work? I think it does. I'm Andrew Donovan. I am a reporter at News Channel 9, the ABC station, currently assigned to the morning shift, so I'm on during our morning broadcast before Good Morning America.
Great, thank you guys so much for coming here. So I think we'll first start off with having you guys sort of explain how do you guys come up with news story ideas for the day or that week, and sort of what is your process in deciding what stories to cover and how to cover the stories that are impacting our community.
So you want to go first?
Oh, I can start. Go ahead. So I think the process is probably the same for almost everyone on this panel, I would say. So we start with a morning editorial meeting, which generally I think it's a little bit different for every station, but here at News Channel 9 we start at 9:30. And it's a collaborative meeting, which means every single person in the newsroom who is there should be at the meeting. So that's reporters, producers, the news director, the assistant news director, the assignment editor, and then from there everyone jumps in, ideas are thrown out. The morning reporter will come in and kind of update if they're in the building, which Andrew can talk about a little bit, update on what they have, what they've done this morning, if there's a potential for follow-up, are they packaging what they're doing. And then from there, the assignment editor will go over the general events over the course of the day, what we're covering, what we're not. and then each of the reporters usually will go around and talk about what story ideas they have, and then it's a yay or nay type situation. Either go ahead, go work on it, or no way, let's start from scratch and see what we're gonna have you actually do. So that's kind of like the general process, and then I'll have someone pick it up from there, but the morning meeting process.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for everybody. You know, we're at our station, Time Warner Cable News, we're a little bit different in the sense we're not an affiliate. We're a 24/7 news channel. So when we have a morning meeting about 9:15 or so, it's my job essentially to make sure we have everything on our schedule, or the grid as we call it. So I have to look through the morning paper and rip things out of that. You know, like this morning, Sean Kurz had an article about a funeral today for some hotel Syracuse waiter who'd been there for 60 years. Is that news early? I don't know, but we didn't have it on our schedule, so I threw it on there. You know, we're kind of the last line of defense at the assignment desk to make sure everything is prepared for that morning meeting, because if it's not on the schedule and it doesn't make it on the whiteboard, and then we turn to channel 9 at noon and see it, everyone kind of slowly turns back to me and says, where is it? Then I faint. But that's at least my role in the morning meeting, is I'm sitting at the computer, I'm going through the day's events, and we kind of start with a round robin. We cover 25 counties, so we have 6 or so news bureaus. So we start in Syracuse and we say, okay, what's going on in Binghamton? And we toss to our Binghamton newsroom. And then we got to see what we need to follow up on down there. And then we go to Watertown, then we go to Potsdam, then we go to Utica, Rome, and Elmira, and so on and so forth. So we're covering 25 counties, 15,000 square miles, 6 television markets. So it's a challenge, but basically our newsroom is the same thing. You have the morning meeting, you look at your competition, do we need to do more on something that we covered yesterday? And at the assignment desk, we have to make sure we have it all in there, because if we don't, then it ends up somewhere else. We're the ones that usually get yelled at for it, and we never get any compliments, believe me, for our standing coverage. But yeah, it's pretty much the same. It's you're looking at the day's events and seeing what could be packaged. There's an REDC thing today at 10. I know we're putting a reporter on that, so that's something where I'd say, well, this timed event can be turned into a bigger story, a minute 30 piece. Then you can wrap that later in the day. You kind of decide at that point, okay, what stories do we have, and what are the live assignments? You know, do we have a couple of trucks in DeGeros, kind of portable live units? So you say, which story can we wrap for 5 o'clock, or we take them at 4:45 and they're at 5 at our station. But yeah, I imagine it's pretty much the same for most folks in terms of, you know, that's the catalyst for the day. You start there and then things change so rapidly. By the time 2 o'clock rolls around, the day's like completely different, because like yesterday I had a reporter assigned to a story and we had a pilot die midair and land in Syracuse. And we said, well, that's a reporter story, so we flipped that reporter into something else. So it's not only about the morning meeting, it's about kind of changing as the day goes on.
So these guys have done a great job of talking about the process, and I can say that's probably very similar to most newsrooms in the country. But when you're talking about, I think you referenced story selection, and choosing stories for your audience, you have to, your newsroom collectively will most likely have a brand, whether you're the investigative station, or you're the problem-solving station, or you're the consumer station. And so you kind of always want to think about, does this story fit our brand, so to speak? And if it doesn't, well then how can I make it fit the brand, right? You don't always want to give up on it so easily. There's always a way to do it. In terms of our newsroom, and I'll give you guys some advice, because probably pitching stories is the toughest thing that you'll do. First off, it'll be getting a job out of school. But one of the toughest things that you'll do is pitch a story in the newsroom. It's very difficult because the blank faces are staring at you half the time. So my advice would be to really work on your story pitch, and the last thing you want to do is pitch a story that the assignment desk already has. I hate that. But you can pitch a story the assignment desk has, but have something, I want to talk to this person and expand it, or I could get an exclusive interview with this person, and just use the press conference as a stepping off point to my story. I'm highly into enterprise stories. Everyone has to bring it. And when I mean enterprise, I mean it's something that's not an event of the day. It's something that, hopefully the other stations won't have. It's something that you've probably worked on in your off time. But we want to do reporting, and these guys are the same way. We want to do reporting that the other stations don't have. So, you know, I'm always encouraging people. I actually have my assignment editor go first because then no one can repeat what he said. Again, so everyone's thinking about stories that, you know, are not the DA's press conference today or, you know, whatever the case may be. And you also, talking about knowing your audience and your brand, you know, you guys may or may not have gotten into it, and again, it's the same for everyone here, but you know, when you get into a newsroom, you'll start talking about demographics and the audience that you're aiming for. And in most newsrooms, it's women of a certain age. So, you know, you have to keep that in mind too. I think about that as I'm pitching stories. I think about that as I'm deciding on what stories to cover that day. And you also have to think about what impacts your community the most. You know, you're covering all these different counties, and something that matters to people in Madison County might not matter to people in Onondaga County. So is it worth doing that story, or if we do that story, how do we make it interesting and relevant enough that everyone in our viewing area, all 6 counties or whatever, you know, our immediate viewing area will want to watch. So there's a lot to think about, and we're throwing a lot of information at you, and it gets easier the more that you do it, but just a little bit in terms of kind of the thought process in the meetings.
And if it sounds hard to enterprise, it is, I promise. I'm not, you know, it's something that reporters work on every single day to get better at, and I admire reporters who are good enterprisers. I'm an okay enterpriser, it's something you grow. It's not something you'll be good at now or the day out of college. And I've been doing this at Channel 9 for 2.5 years, and it's something I wouldn't call myself good at now. It's just something that grows, and you know, what I like about the morning meeting is there's such a big room of people, and you can all kind of support each other. If I have kind of a story idea, somebody else might be able to piggyback off of that and help me expand it. If I have a solid story idea, somebody else might have covered something similar 2 years ago and might have a good source for me or an easy phone number to use. So it's also a time to kind of support each other and just learn from each other and brainstorm. Exactly. It's an active dialogue and a conversation that, you know, could evolve the rest of the day, as was already mentioned. So if it sounds hard, it is. It's not easy.
In a general rule, I'm probably the biggest stickler for this, but just come as prepared as you can. And for my reporters, that rule is coming with 3 stories that maybe they don't have to be set up, but that you've made calls on that are doable for that day. Maybe they won't turn into anything, but I want you to come in with 3 ideas that are solid, that you know are doable for that day. And that helps cut down on kind of, like Ray said, a lot of the stuff that the assignment editor has already thrown out that we could easily repeat. That cuts down on that a little bit and provides a little bit of structure too.
Yeah, you need background ideas because that clock is ticking. You know, news is not 9 to 5. If you don't have a story that's turning, then you need to immediately go to your backup story because 5 o'clock rolls around and you can't be sitting there scrambling. So backups you definitely need because, like I said, that clock is ticking. And if you don't have a story, there's no excuse for that. So.
That's a great point. If your story doesn't work out, it's not like you're out of the mix for that day. You're going to do a story. It's just whether or not you start your story at 10 o'clock or you start your story at 4 o'clock. You know, and just like John said, you have to have those backups. And again, too, the newsroom's there, and it happens probably at least once a day. When you have 5 or 6 reporters, if all of them work out, it's a miracle day. I mean, you know, there's usually one person that either falls through or we have to switch them because there's been breaking news or something like that. So, yeah, have the backup, but also, too, you can, you know, learn how the people to rely on to kind of help you out because it'll definitely happen, unfortunately.
And the chances of leaving the morning meeting and having the exact same plan that you had when you left that room, slim to none.
You have to be flexible, I would say. Very flexible.
Yeah, and from a print perspective, and on campus, obviously at the DO we don't really have a morning meeting because we are in classes all day. But yeah, so we usually meet the night before and go over sort of the stories that we know or are supposed to run the following day, which you can plan for a certain amount on campus. You know certain events are happening, if certain speakers are on campus, if there were like recent announcements by like the chancellor or something, we do follow-ups, so we have those planned ahead of time. But it's kind of like everybody else has said, you can only plan like to a certain extent. Things happen every day that you didn't plan for, and so basically we have our reporters who, you know, write the stories that we have prepared ahead of time, and those are all planned out. And then if something breaking happens, we have our editors sort of who are, you know, constantly sort of on the clock, if you will. And if something breaks on campus, or if an email goes out that is not like a Dear Orange Friends email, but like another email, like with news in it, then we cover it and write about it. So yeah, it's like a little different given that people are sort of in class during certain periods of the day. But yeah, we try to plan as best we can to sort of avoid having you know, people running between classes to break stories and stuff.
Great, thank you guys so much. What are some of the challenges in covering a market like Syracuse and sort of like the surrounding area, like some of the other counties as well?
You know, I think the challenges are we have a very big viewing area, and obviously Josh has got a huge viewing area. For me, actually our NBC is the affiliate in Watertown, and our CBS is the affiliate in Utica. So we actually have a huge market. Some of the challenges are, you know, definitely we are the distance, you know, aside from Time Warner, you know, 9, we don't really have bureaus, right? We're all really based in Syracuse. So, you know, going out into, you know, Ithaca to do a story, which actually is much more possible, right? We've got laptops, we have live view unit. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically a live shot in a backpack. So that's made those trips a lot easier, especially my station, most of the reporters are actually MMJs. They shoot, they do everything themselves. So not having to worry about that drive time coming back to the station is a tremendous help. You know, the usual, if the topography here in Central New York does not make it easy to do live shots a lot of times. I could be live 50 miles away and then I can't get a live shot from down the street because it's down a hill. That makes it a little difficult. I think that we do have a huge viewing area, and typically we're not huge in terms of staff TV stations. So you know, we don't have everyone to cover every county that we cover. You know, so you do have to be smart about your decision making. You know, I've worked in a market where we only had 2 counties, and it was a whole heck of a lot easier to cover things. So the different counties does make it a little bit of a challenge, but I think too, what's great about Syracuse and what I like most about this market is that we're not inundated with breaking news, so it's not a stretch like, oh, we always have to get here, we have to get here. We have just enough. I like the fact that we can enterprise. We have a good mix of enterprise, news of the day, and breaking news. And so I think that probably makes it a little bit easier as opposed if you're trying to cover breaking news in a, you know, multi-county area. You guys can talk a little bit more about that. But
I was just going to say, from a producer standpoint, which I think my way of thinking sometimes is a little bit different, but a lot of times as a producer, you crave the breaking news, you want the breaking news, and Syracuse doesn't have a whole lot of breaking news.
No.
We get it, but it's not, we're not talking what big market where every single day they have 5, 6 crazy stories that you can easily put a reporter on. We have to be, you know, not every breaking story here is a story that a reporter should be on. Sometimes it's just, you know, a fire, and it sounds like just a fire, but there's so many fires that not every fire is going to, you know, mean that a reporter should be out live covering the fire. Actually, chances are that's probably not going to be the case unless there's a crazy circumstance surrounding it. So I think that's, as a producer, the biggest challenge, because I want the breaking news. I want the news that, you know, big markets get, but in this market, it doesn't happen very often. And I sometimes joke that we live in like a news dome where everything happens around here, but we don't always get a whole lot here in Syracuse. And like Ray said, you know, that being the challenge too, that sometimes a lot of the breaking stories have happened Buffalo, Binghamton, they're in the general vicinity, but getting a crew there isn't always as simple as it would be if it was, you know, here in Syracuse. So you have to be very selective when sending crews out and deciding, you know, like Ray said, what is the smart decision? You know, do you risk sending a crew out and have it potentially not be anything? And also comes into play with sister stations. We're a Nexstar company, so we have a lot of stations that are sister stations that we share content with. So we rely on them a lot as well. We have a Nexstar station in Utica, one in Rochester, and so if there's a big story that's more in their area, we rely on them to go to it and then wait for them to kind of share whatever they get with us, and we do the same for them. So there's a lot of reliance on the stations that we work with within the company to help us out.
Yeah, I kind of have it easy in one sense. Like I said, we cover 6 television markets, so I'm a bureau. If something happens in Binghamton, like the ACA shootings, April 2009, you learn that a madman, Jeffrey Wong, went on a rampage and killed 13 people. My bureau was right there. I could call, and I called my VJ and said, go down to Front Street at the American Civic Association, there's a shooting. At that point, though, you still have to send your resources down there. We had 1 live truck down there. We still have just 1 live truck at our Binghamton station. But that's when you have to make the call, like everybody else would do, is send all the support down there, send additional live trucks, send additional reporters for a nuts and bolts piece and 3 sidebar pieces and so forth. But it can also be a challenge. You know, I remember one day, a couple of years ago, I was alone at the assignment desk. We have 3 other assignment editors. I was solo that day, and we had this massive fire at a plant in Messina, near the Canadian border. So I'm dealing with that, and at the same time, we had a massive fire near Oneida Lake, like a big lumberyard or something, I don't know what it was. But they're happening at the same time. The chances of getting 2 massive fires at the same time, so far apart, it doesn't happen often. And then in the middle of all this, I have some woman calling asking for a recipe that we had recently. So I'm sitting at the assignment desk talking about chicken noodle soup, or whatever the hell it was, while trying to get crews to Messina and crews to Oneida. So, you know, it can certainly be a challenge when you have that much mileage to cover, because you have to read, you know, the Press and Sun in Binghamton, the Star Gazette in Elmira, the Ithaca Journal, the OD, the Hornell Evening Tribune. I mean, these are places that are 3 hours away. I have to know what's going on there, and then go up to read, you know, the Potsdam Gazette or whatever the hell it's called, in those places. So, you know, like everyone said, Syracuse is not the breaking news hub. You get Signal 99s, working structure fires, and shootings on the weekend nights on occasion. But that's pretty run-of-the-mill for any city. And, you know, in bigger markets, house fires and your run-of-the-mill stabbing and shootings are not going to get a heck of a lot of play. Whereas here, they're going to lead, you know, your 5 o'clock show, depending on how bad it is, or you can establish a live shot or something like that. But that stuff will get higher play here than it would in other places. And that's the same for Binghamton, that's the same for Elmira, that's the same for Utica, same for Watertown. I mean, spot news like that sells pretty well here, because that's sometimes all we have in terms of breaking news, unless you get a big scandal SU or something like that. Not that we have those.
Yeah, just like as far as on campus goes, I think one of the biggest challenges that we face in DO is sort of knowing everything that goes on campus, because it is a big campus. There's several schools and colleges, and it's hard to keep up with sort of what's going on in each of them, which is, I mean, that's our job, is to keep up with not just, you know, like Newhouse or our College of Arts and Sciences or whatever, but sort of keeping up with the entire campus can be a challenge, and that's where we sort of rely on word of mouth, or, you know, when somebody walks down the street and they see that the Jimmy John's bike delivery guy hit a girl, they tell us, and then we cover it, because, you know, there's not like an email blast about that. But yeah, so it can be hard to keep up on sort of all of campus. I would say that's one challenge. And then another challenge is sort of balancing covering campus news and then also city news. It can be difficult because obviously everyone who goes here lives in the city of Syracuse for 9 months out of the year at least. And so a lot of times it's sort of a challenge to keep up on what is relevant to students that's happening in the city and what's worth reporting on, and what other things are just sort of we let it go because it's a little too sort of city-centric and students wouldn't necessarily be affected by it. But that can be difficult because, you know, you only have so many reporters and editors who can report on what's happening on campus, that then you have even fewer who can, you know, devote their time to if something important is happening in the city that might affect students. So that's another challenge, sort of finding a balance between those two for us at least.
And I report in the morning, which is for all stations staffed differently. I'm the only reporter in the morning, and I think Time Warner and CMI Central also only have one reporter in the morning. And that means if something's happening in the morning, I'm taking off what was scheduled to go do that. Now, a lot of times, that's a good decision because it's breaking news, it's active. But if it turns out to not be a significant story, now you can't a story you already had planned and go on to something that isn't a story. Or you have to travel and you're missing your airtime because our show runs 4:30 to 7. So if I decide, you know, or it's decided for me that we have to go to Utica to cover a triple homicide, which did happen this year, you're missing the 4:30 a.m. hit, the 5 a.m. hit, and you might not get on the air until 6 a.m. Sometimes it's a good decision and sometimes it's not. It all depends on how strong your other story was, how significant the breaking story is, if there's other content that can fill those times at 5 and 5:30. It's always just an active discussion, and that's why there's a lot of people helping make the decision. Luckily, it's not up to me. I let other people convince me or make me, so.
And sort of related to that, how has like social media sort of changed how you scour stories? Has it become a bigger challenge, or has it been overall more helpful and useful in finding stories?
I mean, I think it's been overall, it's definitely been more helpful and useful. I actually, and I was rude, I apologize, I was on my phone a little bit earlier because I was texting the newsroom, saw a tweet I had seen, not a story tip. So, yeah, it's hugely helpful, especially getting a hold of people. As you guys probably guessed, a lot of people don't have landlines anymore. It's very hard to get a hold of people because cell phones aren't published. So a lot of times we're getting through to people through email, Facebook message them, we tweeted them all the time. It's great for not only, you know, we make sure that we follow on Facebook and Twitter all the local police departments, the fire departments, county government, what have you, all the newsmakers. You want to make sure that you're following on any platform possible. A lot of times now they just go straight to social media. They won't give the newsroom a call anymore like they used to, or they won't email us like they used to. I think that's tremendously, it's so important. And actually some police departments are very good at, like for example, the Ithaca Police Department will just post stuff on their Facebook page. Like I don't think they even do press releases to the newsroom anymore, rarely. You know, so we're kind of always scouring that. And also too, if you're looking for, you know, you say you want to do a story on something and you don't have that person to do the story around, well, you know what, throw it out on Facebook. Hey, we're looking to do this story. Does this pertain to anybody? Would you like to speak to us about that? We do it all the time, and it's a great way to find people, you know, for your stories. And again, too, and it's a great way, too, just to know what's going on. Because news is just so rapid these days, and it's 24/7, whether it's on TV or it's on Facebook or on the websites. You know, sometimes, you know, I'm away from my computer for like 3 hours, and I feel like I've missed an entire day's worth of news. So it's also a great way of quickly catching up. I hate to say it, I obviously look at the news wire, the AP wires every day, but I'm probably more on Facebook and Twitter than I am on traditional, you know, traditional news gathering that we've done in the past. And certainly, you know, Josh alluded to it earlier, definitely scouring local newspaper websites. They're a great source of information. And we just don't have the staffs to be in every town board meeting, in every city, in village, in our viewing area. So they're also great resources for you know, kind of monitoring areas but yeah, and even, you know, even on Twitter, a lot of police departments put their dispatch calls on Twitter. Not their calls, but when they're going out, and they'll put the address and let you know. So, you know, we always joke in the newsroom that Twitter is the new scanner. So we're definitely heavily into that, and these guys can speak to it as well.
And after the fact, I think Twitter's a great way to see the interest in a story that you did, so you can make decisions in the future. If you scroll to the top of our website, there was an accident this morning in Manlius. I think it's the top story on the website. And you know, we kind of hemmed and hawed, do we go? There were 2 people hospitalized. We don't even know at this moment if it's serious or not. But the reaction I got on Twitter from posting this was more than a normal accident. And I don't know if it is a heavily trafficked area through Manlius to get to Fayetteville to get into the city. And I was happy we went just because I saw a greater reaction on Twitter to that story than on any other accident. I could post an accident every day and it doesn't get retweets and whatever. But this one did. And I just know that's a heavily trafficked area that isn't a highway. So that made me think we made the right decision by going to that this morning. That's just a very timely example of a way that Twitter helped reinforce our decision, so we'd probably make the same decision again next time.
And well, I mean, the benefits, I think, to social media with news are endless. There are plenty of benefits. Another one is, you know, really connecting with the viewer using Facebook and Twitter. You know, something as simple as, I think Andrew did this yesterday, he posted a selfie from the studio with our morning anchors and the meteorologist and posted it to Facebook, and there was like hundreds of likes within like 5 minutes. So people love that. It's like a behind the scenes look at what's going on. People like feeling like they're part of that family, and that's what all of the comments were, like, oh, we love seeing you guys, we wake up every morning, it's so nice to see you kind of out of your element a little bit. But one big negative to social media that I think any news person would admit to is because the news is so readily available, Twitter, Facebook, everything. Every news organization is on Twitter, Snapchat even. By the time the 5 o'clock news airs, all of those stories are old. People have seen them on Twitter, they've seen them on Facebook, they know already what you're about to tell them. So the challenge is finding a fresh something that they haven't seen, a new way of telling the story that they haven't heard it a million times already. So that can be really difficult, especially, you know, a great example of that is the Oregon shooting last week. You know, Twitter is so up to date, it's not always factual, but people are on Twitter following every single update from that college, from the campus, from people who are experiencing it, that by the time the national package that we're gonna air goes on, people are like, oh, I've already heard that. So that's where it really becomes a challenge for the producer to find that new bit of information that right off the top of the show, you're putting it in there so your viewer isn't like, oh, I've already seen this, changing the channel. So that's where I think it's a big challenge for people within news to try to find that balance between, it's a great resource for people, it's a great resource for us, it's a great resource for people who are viewers, but it makes it very difficult as well.
On the Oregon point, I don't know if anybody watched the breaking news coverage as it was unfolding. Because this community college was in such a remote location away from a TV station, the networks relied on Twitter. They were reading tweets on the air, at least the cable stations, of what people were saying and doing. They didn't have a live picture. They literally showed a map for at least an hour, which is a lot for network news to show a map for an hour, but they were reading tweets of people who were there, who witnessed it. There was speculation that it was a certain professor's class, and you know, it doesn't mean it turned out to be right, but even the network news was only relying on Twitter in terms of a first-hand account. They were reminding viewers, though, that it's not confirmed and just
And that's
Twitter.
where it can be very tricky. You have to be very careful with what you're pulling from social media and putting in your newscast, because what you're putting in your newscast is gospel to that viewer that's watching. They're relying on you for accurate, factual information, not stuff that maybe we think could have sort of happened. That's not fair to your viewer. So you have to be very selective and very sure of what you're pulling from social media before you ever put it in your show. You know, one thing that we always have a lot of conversations about at our station is using Facebook photos. You know, a big thing, and I think even the networks tend to do it for their websites or even for world news or whatever. You know, there's a tragedy of some sort and they immediately go to social media. Any news person is going to do that. Go to social media and see what they can find. Photos, background information. And you could probably use the Oregon shooting as a good example too, or you know, another one would be the Sandy Hook shooting in Connecticut a few years ago, or 2013, I'm sorry. The wrong photo was circulating of someone that they claimed was the shooter, and it ended up being his brother or something, I think, or a cousin. So you have to be, you know, that's a conversation that we always have. Are you comfortable with using this photo? Or how sure are we that this is the person? And that's a high-level editorial decision that has to be made, but it's a conversation that should always be had before you just pull the trigger and throw someone's name out there or a photo. So those are conversations that we have quite often, deciding whether it's the right thing to do, are we comfortable enough to do it, and sometimes we just err on the side of caution, and you'll see the competition has it, or Syracuse.com will have it, but we try to, you know, scale back a little bit before just jumping out there and using photos that we don't know for sure, or, you know, just guessing, because it can come back to bite you in a big way.
And that's why traditional media still has value, because I think everyone questions what does traditional media mean in this world of social media. If you see it on Channel 3 or Time Warner Cable News or on Channel 9, there's that higher expectation that it's accurate and, like you said, gospel. And I think that's why we all still have jobs, because people still tune to us in masses for the most accurate information.
Well, and they're exactly right. A couple of things I was thinking about when we're talking about how it changed. With social media, with Twitter and Facebook, I feel, you know, YouTube, it's like we're all posting everything, and you guys are posting photos or you're retweeting or whatever. You have to be really careful. There's a whole legal minefield, and you guys are all going to be introduced to this when you get out in the business, is that just because it's on Twitter doesn't mean you can use it. You know, my company, I've gone over many sessions in terms of the legality of YouTube videos, Facebook pictures, Twitter. So as you guys are moving forward, just a little bit of advice for you is that if you don't get permission, you can't use it. There's different ways to shoot it, you know, but don't, you know, because again, we're so used to it and everyone's taking a selfie and it seems so readily available. There's kind of a whole new minefield, so to speak, that reporters and journalists are getting into in terms of, yeah, it's great that content's readily available, but we still have to think about, can we use it? Do we have permission? How do we use it so we don't get in trouble? Things like that. So just moving forward, just kind of think about that as you guys are doing pieces and whatnot. And then one more point I just had about how social media has changed. Also too, if we had a good story and we knew it was exclusive, this is maybe like 10 years ago, we would save it. We would hold it till 5 o'clock, or we would hold it till 6 o'clock. We wanted to be the big exclusive for the 5 o'clock newscast. We rarely ever save a story anymore, because guess what? If we know about it, chances are the competition either knows about it or is going to know about it in a couple hours. So and that was actually a very tough transition. I had a few reporters who I actually got in fights with back in the day because they just didn't want to do that. They didn't want to let Time Warner and 9 see what we had because they had enough time to go get the story. And we finally broke that, broke that thought process, and I kind of used to explain my reasons. And now it's automatic. Now when a reporter gets a story, they call it in, we post it, we push it. We don't wait for that 5 o'clock deadline anymore, that 11 o'clock deadline anymore, because someone's going to have it. And social media and the internet are 24-hour deadlines. So same thing with a reporter. An MMJ, you don't come back, do your 5 o'clock story, and then post your article at the end of the day. That never. You're calling, if you're out in the field, you're calling in your story, someone's posting it for you, and then maybe you come back at the end of the night and add some more context to it. But we can't survive if we operated like that, and that's definitely not so old school. It was only like 10 years ago we were operating like that. Just with the explosion of our websites and social media, all that's changed. So you kind of have to, even though you do have your deadline, and it's a challenge for reporters like Andrew, you have your deadline at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, but your web deadline is like now. You got to get that information out there. Yeah. So that's definitely, I've been in the business long enough. It's been 16 years now. I've been in the business long enough where I know what it used to be like. When I first got in, we were lucky if we updated our website 3 times a day. And my first station of PA did it on their lunch break from studio work. So now you've got, how many people devoted to just that in the newsroom. It's changed really dramatically in a quick amount of time. So that's a huge change for the industry. And it's only going to get, honestly, it's only going to get more so as we go forward.
Yeah, there's always downfall with the speed at which things travel. There's no real time to contemplate a story, because you have that gut feeling like we got to get this out there now. But it helps you. Like at the assignment desk, it's helpful for me, because if I don't have a story, I can go on Twitter and see somebody with that story, and I still have an hour to get it confirmed before the 5 o'clock show. But when breaking news, it's helpful when people post stuff. This was years ago during the Jenlyn Watson search. A local girl went missing. And this was, I think, really before Twitter exploded. So back when Facebook had like groups, you could like join groups and everything. I was in a Please Find Jenlyn Watson group. And it was a Saturday morning, and I was on Facebook refreshing that page, just checking in the morning. And I started to see comments trickle in, like, oh, there's some movement at Clay Central Park. They think they found her, or something like that. So I said, oh crap. I rerouted my reporter, wherever she was at that time, pulled my photographer, and sent them to Clay Central Park because there was movement there. And that's where they found her. So it's helpful to be monitoring that stuff. And there's older school ways to do that. I shouldn't be saying this in public, but I used to, on our scanner, I could hear channel lines two-way. So I memorized their frequency, 455.0050. And whenever I heard their assignment editor in blue say, a bench to 2, we have a, does that crash anything? Shoot it anyway. So I'd say, oh shit, I don't have that crash. And I'd send my photographer that crash because I know I'm not shooting it. Unfortunately, I don't think you guys do that anymore, so I cannot spy on you.
I think they used to make things up because they knew you were listening.
Yeah.
That's probably it. But it's being competitive. So that's helpful in social media. And in my assignment desk, I only have like 5 or so counties I can hear on the police scanners. I cannot hear to Utica. I can't really hear up in Potsdam. So if I go on Twitter or Facebook and look at one of our competitors and say, we're on the scene of a police investigation on Smith Street, we'll have more as it comes available, and I don't know about it. And my bureau reporter is not listening to his or her scanner in her bureau. She's out at ribbon cutting or whatever. I could call them and say, hey, WWNY in Watertown's on the scene of some investigation. Can you swing by? Even if it's an hour away. That's still swing byable, you'll learn. We have the story, and my producers won't know where I got it, but I at least say I have it. So, you know, it's definitely helpful. You have to be careful, as I said, with what you see, because you can't just go on the air with something that was on Twitter. But for the most part, it's very helpful. You know, when the pilot died mid-flight yesterday, I was on Twitter and found some passenger who was on the flight tweeting about it, and I gave that handle to my reporter, and the passenger landed in Boston, but she FaceTimed that passenger, so we had the SOT from the passenger. So overall, social media is very, very helpful, but you just have to be careful with, you know, we don't report scanner chatter at our newsroom. You shouldn't do that. And the same thing with Twitter and Facebook. Just, you know, it's a great jumping off point. It's a great, okay, here's the story, here's where we are. But you got to be careful how far you jump with it, basically.
Yeah. And, excuse me, social media is kind of like become its own story in a way now, in a couple ways. First of all, it used to be, at least since I've been here, like at the DO, if we had a story, we would, you know, write up the story, post it online, and then tweet out the story with a link. But now, like, people, they're not, like, they don't care, they're not patient enough to wait, you know, the extra 10 minutes or whatever for the story link. So the reporter or whoever tweets out the news without a link, and because that way people have it. So that's sort of like the sense of immediacy. Like, people would rather have the information in, you know, 140 characters than they would wait 10 minutes for the link with the full, you know, 200 words of like background and everything. So that sort of changed pretty recently. And then also, you know, we now use social media for stories on their own. We do like Storyfies, which is basically, we just compile, like, if there's a big event on campus, whether it's like a football game or a basketball game, or like the Juice Jam announcement or block party announcement or whatever, we will just compile tweets of like people's reactions. And it's just like an entire story. It's just like, Big Sean, so lit, or like whatever people are saying on Twitter. That was like half of them. Yeah, so that's, you know, another aspect. We use social media for their own stories, sort of, because it's just an interesting way. It's, you know, it's easier now, and I think honestly more informative and more insightful to just compile 20 tweets about what people are saying about Big Sean being lit than it is to like go out to, you know, Bird or Shine and just be like, hey, like, did you hear about Juice Jam? And then you get like awkward responses and stuff. So yeah, social media can be used sort of on its own for stories in itself too, I think, which is sort of neat, and also, you know, can be sort of a fine line between like what's appropriate and what's not to be like publicizing, but yeah.
Well, and as a future journalist too, and we talk about knowing your audience, an incredible amount of people are getting their daily news from Facebook. You know, they're really not going to, I mean, we still have a lot of people going to our websites, but they're seeing our stories through Facebook. Either they follow us on Facebook or their friend has shared an article. So there's a challenge, you know, we're talking about posting an exclusive story before the newscast. It's a station's really got to think about, okay, I posted that, but what can I tease within that post and that article that's still going to get people to my newscast? It's social media and television are not two separate things. You need to have them work together. If you've got some great social media presence, how are you using that not only to attract followers, but how are you using that to get people back to the broadcasts? That's what's really important. So, and how are you using your broadcast to get people to social media? But I think for us, it's how are we using social media to get people to our broadcasts. And that's what you have to think about, you know, all right, I'm gonna do this exclusive story, but tonight I'll tease the interview. Maybe I'll just leave out a small part, and tonight I'll tease the interview with the victim, or I'll tease the interview with such and such. Because again, they're not two separate entities. You have to really use them together to try to really boost both. It's really important. And that's what every news department is gonna have to do in order to continue to thrive moving forward.
And when you're a big company who needs to make money and you need to hire social media people, you can't necessarily say that those social media people are making you money because you can't monetize Twitter and Facebook. And the challenge is to get them back to your broadcast or your website where there are paid advertisements. I'm a reporter, so I should have nothing to do with sales, but I'm just adding that part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Since we have about 15 minutes left, we're gonna open up the questions to audience members. Valerie has the mic, so just raise your hand, and Valerie will hand the mic to you to ask your question. So you can answer just very quickly.
Oh, is this working? Is this working? Okay. Hi, my name is Catherine Robinson. I'm a senior broadcast major here in my reporting class. And currently we've kind of been discussing the pros and cons. I know you touched a little bit on it about live shots and the usefulness of them. We kind of see some reporters that maybe the breaking news or the event that they were there live for is over. And it's kind of what is the purpose or importance of them still being there live. So I was wondering if there's a standard in your newsroom or how you make decisions about when you're going to have a reporter there actually going live for the package of the evening newscast.
I mean, I think automatically, obviously, if there's a scene and there's something happening and it's active, there's no question the reporter should be there live. But honestly, I think every news director has a different philosophy on live shots. I had one news director who said, live for the sake of live is a waste of time. I've had another news director who says, we should be live no matter what. As many stories as possible, we should be live. So it's kind of, everyone has their own philosophy. I tend to be more if we can be live, why not be live? It doesn't have to always be active. It doesn't always have to be an in live hit and an out. It doesn't have to be a rep. It can sometimes just be a live tag or a live in. Sometimes it can just be a talk back with the anchor. It doesn't have to be a full-blown package wrapping that. So I think everyone kind of has a different philosophy on it, and that can sometimes cause arguments within the newsroom, especially if it's 4:30 and we're deciding whether to send someone out to be live at 5 o'clock. The assignment editor may feel very different about the idea of sending a truck and a reporter and another photog compared to me, who's going to say, I don't care how you do it, just get someone there and do it now. So everyone has a different way, I think, but obviously, like you said, if there's a scene and there's something active, but I don't think that's necessarily should be a determining, the determining factor of whether you actually are live, if that makes sense.
Go ahead. I was just
I love live.
I love being live. I would be live every single day if I could. There are those few examples where it's just not appropriate or it's definitely a stretch to be live, but I love being live. I've fought with producers who didn't want me to be live. And I think your job as a reporter, though, is to still make the live shot relevant. If you make the decision at 4 to go be live a half hour away, then there's nothing there. Chances are you're still going to be live because you made that decision. You got to make it relevant. You got to make it fit the picture still, and that's your job. So.
Yeah, I mean, I love live, and as we're kind of talking about trying to get people to watch our broadcast as well as our social media. Something about live, it creates a sense of immediacy. Viewers, in research, viewers love live, and it doesn't matter. But again, when you're trying to convey a sense of urgency and why you should watch, and we've got the latest, live just does something for you that the studio doesn't. And I don't know if I can really explain it specifically, but yeah, we try to be live as often as possible. But again, like Sabrina's right, there are some news directors who don't believe in that. I am a believer in live. I guess it's just really whichever your cup of tea is. But again, when you're kind of battling with 24-hour cables and everything, it's important to be out. And it's also too, you're out in the community. If I can be live in Auburn and live in Oswego and live in Syracuse, it kind of shows the viewer, hey, you're not just in the city, you're everywhere, as opposed to if everyone's in the studio. So there's a little bit of that too. People are like, ooh, they're live in my hometown tonight, because it does a little something for the viewer. So if it were me, you asking me, I would tell you to go live.
Somebody up top.
Oh, right here.
So as you all mentioned that the news stations are relying more and more heavily on social media, how do you do fact checking? How do you deal with trolls and also fake tips? Like how do you detect all those?
Great question. I think Josh could probably speak to this as an assignment editor, and he's probably more so than any of us, really looking at Twitter all the time and Facebook. And you really do, at some point, just, you know if something is trusted. You know if you're dealing with a legitimate news organization that has high standards and that you know that you can trust them. In terms of everything else, you just have to check it. We really don't, I think I can speak for all of us here, is we really don't go, we would never do a story with a source that we weren't sure of. You can certainly use that source to start making phone calls, and hey, maybe this is true, but you really do have to worry about that. In video and pictures, that's another great question. I mean, and that's where, we have a digital media manager as well as the other stations, and that's where you kind of really rely on their expertise to do some research and see for pictures. Is a lot of times when there's like breaking news weather, a lot of people will, I don't know why, they'll post pictures from other places and pretend it's, Oswego or whatever. So you do really have to be careful about that. And again, that's where your social media person really has to look into that. And if you have any questions, don't run it. I always err on the side of caution. I always tell the newsroom, I'd rather hold it and be right than go with it, and then be wrong and not only like ruin our credibility, but also, what if there's like a potential lawsuit because it was someone else's copyrighted, content? So there's a lot of reasons to hold off and just wait. Now, unfortunately, not all organizations are like that. When you get things like blogs and other, other sources that are a genuine newsroom, it gets very tricky. It's actually hard these days to kind of weed out, kind of what's really news and then what's kind of someone's opinion. It's tough.
Yeah, when it comes to fact checking stuff you see on Twitter, it's basic, good old-fashioned journalism. It's picking up the telephone and calling somebody and saying, hey, what is this accurate? What is this? If somebody puts on Twitter, oh gosh, huge scene on Marshall Street, cops everywhere, it's crazy. I'm not going to just immediately send a photographer. I'll say, well, I didn't hear that on the scanner. Nobody else has reported it. It's not on our 911 CAD system. So I'll call Lieutenant Eric Carr, the Syracuse police spokesman, and say, do you know anything about this? Or wherever it may be. It's about looking at your Rolodex, finding out who you need to call, and yes, I still have a Rolodex, and checking it. As old-fashioned as it is, it's picking up a telephone, it's picking up your cell phone, it's saying, calling your source that you know of, or calling even like a 911 media line and saying, hey, what's going on here? A tip caller says this, or a Facebook post says this. That's pretty much all it is. It's sometimes you have to step away from the computer and pick up the telephone and make a phone call. That saves a heck of a lot of time rather than sending your time for an hour away, just hoping and praying that that guy on Twitter was right. So it really comes all down to just what you learn in school and what you learn on the job. Calling your source and picking up the telephone and making that determination, because there was, I can't remember what the story was recently, maybe a homicide you did, I don't know what it was, but everyone was reporting something, we didn't have it, and everyone was staring at me over our desk, basically saying, where is it, can we go with it, maybe we can attribute the paper or whatever, and I said, no. I'll try one last guy, and I'll see if he can go off the record. So I called my local state police public information officer, and I said, I know it's not your neck of the woods, but would we be wrong in reporting this? And he said, and I even read it to him, I said, okay, so we report so-and-so was involved in this crash, also turned out to be the person who's responsible for this homicide, would we be right? And he said, yes, he would. And that was good enough for us because we had a secondary source. So it's about just picking up the phone and calling sources, and if you know they're reliable and you know they're trustworthy, then you can move on and report the story.
Hi, I'm Donna Hayes, I'm a professor here. Ray, you were talking about social media first. Two questions. One, do you have a requirement for reporters tweeting from the field? And two, if a reporter were to come back, let's say at 2 o'clock or so, from a story, is that reporter required to write for your website, write the entire article, or would a web producer still take care of that?
That's a good question. So yes, they're supposed to tweet from the field. Some, admittedly, are better than others, but that is always the expectation. They all have, their own Twitter accounts, they all have their own Facebook pages. In terms of the 2 o'clock, the system that we have, hopefully they've already called it in. They've been out in the field, they've called in the information either to one of our web producers or one of our newscast producers or Simon Desk or whatever, and we're getting that information up from them. Now sometimes there's like a feature story that I'm like, all right, it's okay if we get that up at 6 o'clock at night if there's some kind of time crunch. It's not news of the day, it's not something that I'm really worried about the competition scooping us on. But yeah, if they're especially if they're an event of the day, like a daily event, or they're at a press conference where everyone else is, yes, the expectation is you immediately, you know, at least if you can't call, because in the middle of it, you're texting or you're tweeting information, so then our digital media manager who's monitoring it back at the station can start to form the story. So yeah, but 2 o'clock, you know, if they came and they were on deadline, or certainly we have a system to help everyone out, because again, because we're all MMJs, I understand the restrictions that everyone goes through in terms of time crunch and doing everything themselves, so we try to have systems in place that help everybody out with that, maybe more so than if they were a reporter with a photographer, they had a little bit more time on their hands.
You don't need a full-blown article either. You could just post the main announcement at the press conference and then beef it up later after the story airs, and you've got more time to kind of, you know, fill that in. So.
Any last student question? All right, well then I'll ask one more to wrap it up. Suzanne Lysak, I also teach in the broadcast department. So you talked about that a lot of news consumers get their news and information now through social media. I'm wondering if there have been any discussions in your newsroom about the fact that they also are getting their news, watching the news, how they're watching the news, which is on a device increasingly, whether it be on a phone or a tablet. I'm wondering if that's making any difference in terms of your news gathering, your coverage, how you go about reporting stories, knowing that maybe it's going to be seen on a device versus your newscasts.
Well, I know that our reporters are forced to go the extra level and record like a video tease just for Facebook. All our reporters are mandated to have a Twitter account. I even have one for some reason. And a lot of them, I think you have to be mandated to have Facebook accounts too. And you can't just let it sit there. So we have a requirement. And our digital content team talks to our reporters and, you know, send me your Facebook tease. It's assumed that you're going to have a Facebook tease or whatever. So when your viewers and your people who like the page are scrolling on the newsfeed and they see the video just pop up, say, hey, I'm Joe Schmo here at the big announcement, or whatever. So yeah, we look at stories and design stories and assume the reporter and force the reporter to create kind of a separate tease altogether. You know, they have to record a tease for the air, and it doesn't end there. You have to record a tease for Facebook and a tease. Put a video on Twitter or something like that. So there's an expectation that it's not just go and cut your minute 30 package. It's okay, well, I'm out in the field. Can you shoot ask the photographer, can you shoot my video tease or something like that for Facebook? It's a whole other mindset. It's a whole other component. And, you know, we have, you know, like everyone else, we have a Facebook or an iPhone app, and we can stream live on the iPhone. And, you know, your viewers are not just the folks watching your linear channel. We know that people are watching on Facebook and on their phones. But, you know, from a news gathering perspective on my end, it doesn't change. But I know that the reporters and the digital content team have to take that extra step and make sure there's video there too.
If I'm at an active scene, I will also record like a video for Facebook only because of my morning shift. I know that the first place people go when they wake up is probably their smartphone to check Facebook. I know that's what I do in the morning. So if they're scrolling through and see a little line on, you know, the icon and then there's me, hopefully that makes them turn on their TV if it's compelling enough. So that's one specific way that I, you know, use social media to get people to watch their television.
And another element too is just the live streaming. We do a lot more of that than I think we ever have before. I mean, we live stream every newscast, any big announcement, you know, with the amphitheater recently, we had a couple of announcements related to that. We live streamed that. We made sure to promote that on Facebook to let people know they can go to our website and watch it live. So if you're at work and you can't turn on a TV, you can just grab your iPad or your phone or whatever and watch everything. So I think that's like a newer element too. And cross-promoting that, you know, making sure in our newscasts we're letting people know you can watch all of our newscasts on your phone or on your device as well because we live stream everything. And you know, with our 4 o'clock show, it's a much more, First at 4, it's a little more interactive, so we do a lot more social media tied into that show, and so that's where a lot of the cross-promotion of that happens as well.
Our meteorologists too post a regional forecast where they won't put that on the air, but there's special videos just for our website. And you know, because we do have a big viewing area, people in the Mohawk Valley or the North Country or there's, you know, Southern Tierish can click their region, and it's a special video just for them that you won't see on television anywhere.
So are you talking specifically about during a newscast?
Yeah.
So I think too, you know, it's funny, like lately I've gotten a little bit back to the basics with my producers, and like if there's a video that you want someone to see, tell the viewer that, because they're probably looking down at their phone or their laptop. Hey, take a look at this. Almost the mentality of the morning show, because right when you're watching the morning news, you're probably running around after the kids are getting ready, and you kind of have to tell the viewer, hey, stop and look at this for 10 seconds. So we've gotten a little bit back into that because, you know, same thing with 5 o'clock, people are making dinner or eating or whatever. So we've gotten a little bit back into that in terms of just making people stop and pay attention. You know, looking at, you always want to put great video in, but I think that's more important now than ever to give them something to look at. And also too, I think just being new. You know, and that's actually a challenge sometimes, the 11 o'clock, because traditionally the 11 o'clock is the rundown of the day, whether it happened at 9 o'clock at night or 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock in the morning or 10 o'clock at night, it's everything that happened. But we're increasingly, you know, facing, I don't know, pressure is not the word, but increasingly feeling that 11 o'clock just has to be new. Because, you know, I go home and I'm on social media all night. And so why bother watching at 11 unless we can give them something they haven't seen all day? It's definitely a huge challenge. You know, they can, or, you know, just say to them, hey, you know, maybe you don't have time to delve 2 minutes into a story. So that's a perfect opportunity to do the 20-second video of it and then just say, for more information, you know, we've got the full interview or we've got the full article over on our website. So they can go to that as well. But yeah, it's a huge challenge, just getting them to look up from that and letting them and making them believe that you have content that they are not going to find anywhere else. It's tough. Yeah, it's a challenge.
If there's nothing else, we want to wrap up by thanking our panelists. Thanks again to Ellen Myers, our student SPJ president. Once again, I'm sure make a pitch for you to join our chapter. If you're interested, please come see her. But otherwise, thank you so much for attending. And also, of course, there's much more about News Engagement Day in the food.com lobby, so definitely check that out. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming, guys.